Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first plenary session. Attracting foreign investment and implementing cutting-edge technologies are essential for maintaining competitiveness in the mining sector. Given that only a fraction of the metals mined in Central Asia are processed locally, the future of the mining industry in the region is tied to the establishment of industrial hubs, technology parks, and free economic zones. The session will offer a platform to showcase projects aimed at developing value-added production in Central Asian countries and to discuss the prospects for international trade and economic relations.
Ваше превосходительство, дамы и господа, добро пожаловать на первое пленарное заседание. Привлечение иностранных инвестиций и внедрение передовых технологий критически важны для поддержания конкурентоспособности в горнодобывающем секторе. Учитывая, что в Центральной Азии перерабатывается лишь часть добываемых металлов, будущее горнодобывающей промышленности в регионе связано с реализацией концепции промышленных узлов, технопарков и свободных экономических зон. Сессия предложит площадку для презентации проектов по развитию в странах Центральной Азии, производства продукции с добавочной стоимостью и обсуждению перспектив развития торгово-экономических отношений на региональном и международном уровнях.
Good morning, everybody. What a pleasure it is to be here in Bishkek this morning. And SRK is very grateful for the opportunity to sponsor such a well-represented and attended event. So thank you very much for the invite. I look forward to 2 fantastic days of talks. The agenda is well-ranging and will be a real insight to the mining industry in Central Asia. This morning we have an excellent panel who will be discussing the drivers in the mining industry in Central Asia and the new economic and geopolitical realities that then brings. Our first speaker this morning is Daniel Armengelgiev. He's been the Minister of Economy and Commerce for the Kyrgyz Republic since 2021, who will be discussing the mining complex, an integral part of the economy of Kyrgyzstan. Thank you very much. Please welcome to the podium.
Good morning, dear Chair, Your Excellencies, dear participants of the forum. Let me, on behalf of the Minister of Economy and Commerce of the Kyrgyz Republic, heartily welcome organizers and participants of the 10th Central Asia MINEX Forum.
Стал авторитетной площадкой, способствующей развитию международного сотрудничества и обмена практическим опытом в сфере геологии, горнодобывающей и перерабатывающей промышленности. Пользуясь случаем, хочу поблагодарить организаторов за предоставленную с докладом на тему горно-промышленный комплекс «Составная часть экономики Кыргызстана». Минерально-сырьевые ресурсы являются основой развития экономики многих государств мира. Поскольку Кыргызстан является страной с богатыми минеральными ресурсами, для нас развитие горнодобывающей отрасли весьма актуально, поэтому участие в работе данного форума мы придаем очень важное значение. В начале своего выступления вкратце хотел бы акцентировать ваше внимание на основных экономических показателях страны за последние годы и прогнозы на ближайшее будущее по оценкам международных организаций. Наша приверженность экономическим реформам в сочетании с богатым культурным наследием делает Кыргызстан не только перспективным,
Cultural heritage makes Kyrgyzstan not only investment country, but
в 2023 году ВВП Кыргызстана оценивался в 13,7 миллиардов долларов США, что отражает многообразие и динамичность нашей экономики. Наша экономическая структура включает в себя такие ключевые сферы, как сельское хозяйство, промышленность, торговля и сфера услуг, каждый из которых вносит значительный вклад в ВВП, и удельный вес горнодобывающей отрасли занимает 12% доли от ВВП. Несмотря на глобальные экономические проблемы, мы добились стабильного международного рейтинга и значительной экономической свободы. что свидетельствует о нашей устойчивости.
Economic freedom, which demonstrate our competitiveness and sustainability and resilience at
В ближайшее время по
in current years by up
наблюдается
to
восстановление деловой активности, запланирован запуск крупных инвестиционных проектов.
we plan to launch several large investment projects, scaled up over 100 enterprises, scaled up work on construction of objects and facilities, restoration of water objects. In 2024, we expect 7.2% GDP growth without not considering and 7.8 without gold. In 2025, economic growth is expected to be at 7% as of now. In 2024, growth in by sector of economies is estimated as follows. 3.4 industry, 2.9 agriculture, construction 19.9, and service 6.8, construction 19.9. 2025 growth is expected to be as follows: agriculture 3.1, industry 6.8, services 5.7, construction 12.5% growth. By the order of the managers of our country, we to ensure annual growth at least 10% level. Therefore, country plans to launch over 100 industrial projects, including construction of large.
Перектаж и другие крупные проекты. На сегодняшний день нами подается особое значение для наших инвесторов. В целях поддержания
investors. In order to support the investors, country takes urgent decisions in
либеральная законодательная база в отношении защиты прав и законных интересов иностранных инвесторов. Кыргызстан за последние 3 года заключил порядка 33 соглашений о взаимном защите и поощрении инвестиций, в том числе с 10 государствами Европы, а также участие в Международном агентстве гарантирования инвестиций МИГа. Инвесторам, осуществляющим вложение капитала в приоритетные отрасли экономики, предоставляются отдельные льготы и преференции. Квалифицированная рабочая сила, упрощенная система налогообложения, фискальными мерами поддержки предоставляются определенные преференции для конкретных сфер деятельности. Например, предприятиям в приоритетных отраслях Кабинет министров может освободить от налогов до 5 лет. Отведены отдельные земельные участки на промышленные и экономические зоны.
Industrial economic zones are being developed. There is an incentive area for
приоритетном праве должны закупать у отечественных товаропроизводителей. Основные торговые узлы – это 2 крупных рынка Дордо и Карасу, являются основными торговыми узлами по всей Центральной Азии. Кроме того, торговый хаб и транспортные коридоры через Кыргызскую республику пролегают транспортные коридоры, соединяющие Европу и Азию, север и юг Азии, с использованием наземного и воздушного транспорта. Хотел бы отметить, что мы начинаем строительство дороги Китай, Кыргызстан, Узбекистан. На данный момент соглашение уже проходит процедуру ратификации в Джорку-Кенеши. Развитый финансовый рынок. В республике успешно осуществляет деятельность 23 коммерческих банка, 18 из которых с участием иностранного капитала. Уважаемые участники, хотелось бы отдельно вас ознакомить с системой налогообложения для инвесторов при заключении инвестиционного соглашения в соответствии с законом об инвестициях Кыргызской республики.
Is signed in line with the law on investment. Investment agreement, a treaty signed between the Cabinet of Ministers of the Kyrgyz Republic and the investor provides
В рамках инвестиционного соглашения рассматриваются отдельные условия.
Such agreement provides specific terms for economic activity of the investor in the territory of Kyrgyz Republic, including the benefits and preferences put into the agreement. In line with our legislation, investors might get exempt for several taxes, which are shown on the slide, which is income, revenue, VAT, excise, subsoil use and sales tax.
Хотел бы отметить, что в стране работает ряд крупных
I would like to note that a number of large domestic companies currently work including Kaz Mineral, with great capacity to develop that are focusing on large-scale mines, and they work in the countries of CIS, Commonwealth of Independent States, Kyrgyzaltyn, joint stock venture, and other large companies which are working domestically and internationally. Also close joint stock society Contour Gold Company, large international companies as a Chartered Gold Limited
инвестиций лондонской фондовой биржи Казминералс, ОСО Алтын Альянс, Джируй. Практически с каждым из данных компаний были заключены соглашения и даны отдельные льготы. Также в Кыргызстане ведут свою деятельность испытательные лаборатории, такие как Стюарт Дасей, Альфред Найт, Арчитейдж, которые имеют международную аккредитацию международными компаниями. Наряду с этим есть определенный потенциал открытия новых предприятий в сфере горной промышленности. Для этого мы готовы с инвесторами проработать все ранее обозначенные льготы и преференции. Позвольте также показать сырьевую базу страны. В нашей стране сосредоточено более 100 сырьевых продуктов, что позволяет открывать предприятия с высоким уровнем локализации производимой продукции, которые представлены на данном слайде. В основном в стране сосредоточено титана порядка 260 миллионов тонн в виде руды, золота более 616 тонн, меди более 2 миллионов тонн в виде руды, ртуть порядка 10 миллионов тонн в виде руды, сурьмы, редких олова, который составляет порядка 320 тысяч тонн в виде сырья. Отдельно хотелось бы отметить, что вольфрам, кремний, редкоземельные металлы более чем 51 тысяча тонн природного сырья, более чем 850 миллионов тонн в виде руды, в чистом виде, и уран более чем 23 тысяч тонн. Кроме того, есть перспектива организации добычи железа, запасы которых на сегодняшний день составляет порядка 5,5 миллиардов тонн в виде руды. При этом работа продолжается по освоению и изучению новых месторождений. На данное направление Кабинетом министров были выделены значительные средства на геологоразведку. Кыргызстан готов работать с инвесторами для обмена технологиями и опытом организации совместных производств и создания большого количества рабочих мест. Кроме того, нефтехимия для нас также является определенной заинтересованностью. Основными компонентами для выпуска продукции в области нефтехимии является нефть. На сегодняшний день на территории ежегодно добывается порядка 220,000 тонн сырой нефти,
oil is mined at the territory of Kyrgyz Republic. Capacity is quite substantial, and currently work on geological exploration confirms other larger materials have not been confirmed here. We're talking about also about 50% of the produced products. So country is processing only 50% of currently mined products. So there is a high demand on processing industry, and in particular refining plants and plants processing crude oil. In fact, recently Junda oil refining company was set with the preferences and benefits and taxes. I would like also to draw your attention to the metallurgy area of development. Kyrgyz Republic have more than 5 billion tons of ore of iron. We have a capacity to export products of 12 to 14 billion tons. This is the capacity. It is prospective to build a mineral fertilizer plant. Also, there is an option to review uranium mining and Tashbolat deposit and other deposits. Kyrgyzstan is rich in rare earth metals as well, as has been noted. So there is a perspective of development of rare earth metals like Kajasai-2 and Belunek, Kedisai and other mines. So these three deposits have 53 million tons of rare earth metals in ore. So dear colleagues,
горнодобывающая промышленность является основным приоритетом, и на ближайшую перспективу в целях достижения темпов роста не менее 10% мы предполагаем активную разработку всех указанных месторождений. Уважаемые участники, благодарю за внимание. Спасибо.
Thank you, Minister. It's extremely encouraging to see such a positive outlook and the role that mining can play within that and contribute to. Thank you. Our second speaker this morning is Minister for Natural Resources and Ecology for the Kyrgyz Republic, Melis Turgenev. Melis brings over 20 years of cross-cultural and cross-discipline experience to the role, and we'll be discussing this morning the prospects and scenarios for sustainable development of the mining and metals industry in the Kyrgyz Republic. Please welcome Melis to the podium. Thank you.
Урматтуу Олег Сумекович, уважаемые участники, гости, добро пожаловать в Кыргызстан. Искренне благодарю каждого из вас за участие в данном международном форуме. Форум MINEX стал
Foreign MINEX became a respected platform to improve international cooperation, an excellent place to exchange experience in mining sector. It unites government officials, entrepreneurs and best international companies to address acute issues in mining sector. Kyrgyzstan is rich in mineral resources, which makes the mining sector is of importance for the country. We also appreciate the role of this forum, which enables to promote our interests, improve cooperation, and introduce the best international practices in the country. I'm confident that it will not only improve international cooperation, but also makes contribution to develop mining sector in the Kyrgyz Republic. And I hope your stay will be productive and you will leave with excellent impressions. Some main resources are wolfram, gold, plumber, mineral resources, coal and other natural resources, as you can see on the slide. Kyrgyzstan is well explored. However, it still requires additional exploration of areas, including geological survey and surveillance of the area, including assessment and geological exploration to assess the potential deposits. Today, state balance of natural resources accounts for 1,200 deposits and areas, but 51 precious metals and natural resources. The highest interest is of gold, which has a higher value due to the increase of global prices in the Kyrgyz Republic. At the same time, we have capacity, and based on proved exploration deposits, there are still high volumes of precious, black and raw and non-raw materials. We have about 1,000 areas ready for geological exploration and extraction, which will be subject to auctions for licensing. We welcome interested parties to participate in those auctions. Precious elements play an important role in our modern world, technological world. These unique materials are used in improving systems and to produce technologies and products such as mobile phones, renewables, and in the defense sector. Without those resources, most innovative achievements would fail. Improving sustainable and safe access to precious metals is of critical importance to develop technological science for the benefits of the people as well. We have 11 deposits of precious metals in the country, and we have plans to start production of precious metals. Deposits can be used based on existing deposits, Aksu, and tails, Kusai and Kelesai. These are the areas of the Kyrgyz Republic with 4 factories for processing and enriching. As of now, we are preparing the documents, and we will allocate funds from the national budget. There is a need to attract investors to develop deposits and mining sites at those factories, followed by TOR, terms of reference. Kızıl Ompol deposit in Kochkor and Narin on mountains of Kızıl Ankur. It was opened in 1951, comprises from 5 areas, two from 5. We have performed an exploration was performed based on C1 and C2 in 1963 and allocated categories, so under P1. And at the beginning of this year, decide with allocation of, as I said, inferred resources. And as of 24, the state balance sheet includes reserves. It requires additional geological exploration on unexplored areas, which will improve the balance of natural resources. Natural resources are polymetals, precious black and color metals, and raw and non-raw metals. In the light of high demand for precious metals and unlimited mining capacity, access to critical minerals becomes more and more important for all the economies of the world. Precious metals, earth metals, REMs, are key components of the most advanced materials and technologies. According to the Geological Survey, 6 districts were critical and identified, and including based on ore occurrence. We have uranium in a small percentage. For the economy of the country, mineral resources are important. In 2023, the extraction totaled up about 3 billion USD. An increase totaled 102% in comparison with the last year. Large companies focus on extraction gold, copper, and other minerals, where gold mining is of importance. In 2012, it totaled 15 tons annually. From 2021, the gold extraction reached 30 tons and above. These tendencies are expected in copper and coal mining. According to data, there is an increase in core extraction with an approximately 16,000 tons a year. In 2022 and 2023, the coal mining or extraction totaled 4 million tons. During last year, the amount totaled 23 billion sums for all extraction. 80 billion sums for all precious metals, and the taxes collected totaled 15 billion sums. In comparison with the last year, for the same period, tax revenues totaled increased up to 12% and above. According to financial institutions, mining sector of the country can benefit up to 1 billion USD and to become a locomotive of the entire economy of the country. The Kyrgyz Republic cooperates with the large international organizations, has 28 DTAs, double taxation agreements, and 32 MAP, so-called mutual investment protection. UK and Kyrgyzstan have signed a DTA in 2017, which entered into force in 2023. Kyrgyzstan provides for good number of benefits and preferences, including tax benefits. As of July 23, we have signed an investment agreement between the cabinet of Kyrgyzstan and open joint stock company Aiki Bakir to implement the project on the processing or working on deposits, 3 mining sites. In 2019, an agreement was signed between the government of Kyrgyzstan and Charat Gold Company, which holds a license at Charat Gold mining site. Mining industry is one of the key elements of the economy. Exploration and mining has represented more than 100 companies. Our Minister of Economy has mentioned those companies operating in the Kyrgyz Republic, including larger companies, and we are glad to have such larger companies as Charat, Zigen, Alliance Alten or Gold Alliance, including Kaz Minerals and China Gold. To optimize of government we have established a geological service. Our ministry continues introducing digital solutions, including equipment and integrated measures on exploration, improving material base, and so on. Kyrgyzstan is planning to introduce accounting standard JOG to be account for before stock exchange and investors. Kyrgyzstan is developing now a mountain code, so-called the mining code, to ensure the protection of interests of investors, improve licensing and rational use of subsoil, ensuring environmental safety, and to introduce the best international standards in environmental safety. Recently, the National Parliament has adopted the law on terminating the ban on exploration and mining of uranium in the Kyrgyz Republic. That termination is due to geological exploration and exploration of precious metals with uranium composition that will improve economic situation in the country, in our opinion. The government is planning an IPO of Comtor, the state-owned enterprise, Comtor, at various stock exchanges of the world, and I encourage investors to start buying shares of our company. So once again, I invite all stakeholders to jointly implement important projects in the country. The ministry stands ready to provide comprehensive support and create enabling environment for stay in the country. We encourage both domestic and international companies and guarantee our support at the project cycle. Our country is rich in natural resources, and we have enabling investment climate which makes it attractive, particularly in mining sector. The Minister of Natural Resources, Environment and Technical Supervision is seeking for mutual beneficial cooperation, and we are confident joint efforts will help to introduce innovative solutions and to improve the economy of the region. Thank you for your attention.
Спасибо большое за отличные возможности и проекты, которые представили, в том числе наличие природных ресурсов в Кыргызской Республике. Следующий спикер на сегодня Иран Шархан, министр промышленности и строительства Республики Казахстан. Иран расскажет о недропользовании и опыте в Казахстане. Спасибо большое.
I'm glad to welcome you on behalf of the Minister of Natural Resources of Kazakhstan. Assalamu alaikum. Your Excellency, Mr. Chair, it is very important event. Our participation is also important in our opinion. And it evidences your attention to the mining sector. And I can see you are very responsible. And we can observe changes in the sector, and there is a positive feedback and perception by our international business community. And we can see, they can see stability in this sector, mining and exploration in the Kyrgyzstan. We are happy to see, because we are brother nations, and we are ready to provide all our support of this tendency and to continue our cooperation. In Kazakh language, Chon Rehmet, thank you. Few words about geological exploration and experience of Kazakhstan. So we have about 9,000 deposits in wolfram, the first. So, as I said, solid minerals, 920, hydrocarbons, 361, and the rest OPASP. So in total, we had 113 types of minerals. We are ranked first in the world in terms of tungsten reserves, second in terms of chrome ore, and fifth in terms of lead and zinc. To ensure transparency and competitive access to subsoil resources, legislative reform was carried out with a focus on mining model of Western Australia. They introduced general procedure for issuing licenses based on the first come first served method. The principle provide an opportunity to attract private investments in geo exploration. Since January of this year, we have completed the transition to the standards of reporting based on KAZRC or CRIXOL on new fields was carried out. At the same time, the functioning of GKZ or the Kazakh exploration deposits and on the existing subsoil use objects whose reserves are calculated according to standards with the possibility to re-evaluation of reserves. And we can observe higher investments into this sector. And I would like to thank for active work in Kazakhstan. And in my opinion, it's a big step to improve investment attractiveness of the sector. In addition, Kazakhstan is open for private investments in subsoil use. Our entire territory is open for exploration and subsoil use, which is about 6 million square kilometers. We are actively working on improving transparency of mining sector. Same as Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan is a member on those validation standards. We hope we can successfully undergo the validation and can have highest scores. Last year, the World Bank performed a diagnosis of mining sector in Kazakhstan. We were recommended to shift to royalty from a tax on mining to shift to royalty. So we are now, therefore, working on shifting towards a royalty application in Kazakhstan instead of mining taxes. And these efforts started in 2018. As for changes in regulatory framework or legal framework, Kazakhstan is moving forward. We have recently adopted the subsoil use code. Same as Kyrgyzstan, we are to adopt the subsoil code and mining code. I also want to invite potential investors to auctions, online auctions on subsoil use. Minerals.gov.kz is the website, is a unique web-based platform for auctions which ensures transparency and in e-format. In June this year, we have announced 4 bids or for auction to be held in August 2024 with 23 proven deposits, and invite investors to attend, to participate. You can learn on our website of the Ministry of Industry and Construction of Kazakhstan. In conclusion, however, I would like to thank the Kyrgyz Republic for warm hospitality, given that we are brother nations. However, our cooperation in subsoil use business and mining, talking about this sector, we have an excellent cooperation, an example of such cooperation with Kaz Minerals, and I hope this is the beginning of a mutual beneficial cooperation. Kazakhstan business is ready to attract private investments into the Kyrgyz Republic, and I hope these beginnings will deepen our brotherhood relations between two countries. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Vice Minister. And it's great to see that it continues to build a positive perception of the mining industry in Central Asia and the work they're doing together. So that's excellent. Thank you. Our fourth talk this morning will be presented by Plenary Atema, who is the Senior Policy Analyst and Head of Sustainable Infrastructure and Green Growth Unit for the OECD. She will be discussing opportunities for greener practices in the mining sector in Central Asia. Thank you very much. Please welcome to the podium.
Dear Mr. Chairman of the Cabinet of Ministers, dear ambassadors, ministers, distinguished speakers, dear colleagues, good morning. On behalf of the OECD, thank you very much for this invitation to speak at this important event. The mining sector is set to play a critical role in the global agenda on the clean energy transition, but will need to increase output while also delivering better environmental outcomes if it is to contribute to sustainable growth agendas across economies. In my remarks, I would like to highlight what the expected global growth of the demand in metals and minerals can mean for this region, what opportunities are lying there. Then I would like to offer some OECD insights on some of the challenges facing the sector and policymakers in realizing this opportunity, and offer some suggestions for future policy work. So first, let's look at the opportunities that the anticipated growth for minerals can mean for Central Asia. As I believe everyone is aware in this room, the demand for minerals is growing dramatically, along with the demand in clean energy products. Just last year, lithium demand rose by 30%, while demand for nickel, cobalt, graphite, and rare earth elements also increases, ranging from 8% to 15% according to the IEA. The same source calculates that in a scenario reflecting today's policy settings, mineral demand for clean energy technologies will double between today and 2030. In the net zero emission scenario, it will quadruple, multiply by 4 by 2040. So this can represent an opportunity for countries of Central Asia. The mining sector already plays a key role in most Central Asia economies, representing over 15% of GDP in Kazakhstan, 13% in Kyrgyzstan, 7% in Uzbekistan, and even more significant shares of exports, 16% in Kazakhstan, 60% in Kyrgyzstan, and in Uzbekistan, gold only represents 40% of exports. Central Asia countries' subsoils are rich, we've heard that, with the critical minerals that are needed for the transition. According to a 2021 research by Roman Vakulchuk and Indra Overland, Central Asia holds 39% of global manganese ore reserves, 30% of chromium, 20% of lead, 13% of zinc, 9% of titanium, 6% of aluminium, and the list goes on. So if well done, in accordance with sustainability principles, expanding minerals production in the region could lead to economic diversification, a long-standing objectives of government in the region, new trade opportunities, higher value-added product development, new quality job creation, and a contribution of the sector to just transitions at the subnational level. Both Central Asia governments and their trade partners are expressing their interest in this potential, as exemplified by national development plans for mining and strategic partnerships and commitments for cooperation that have emerged in the past 2 years. Now, realizing this potential, and this will be the second part of my remarks, will require to address a number of policy challenges. Some of them are inherent to the sector. Mining sector is highly capital intensive, with long lead times between discovery and production, about 16 years on average, according to the IEA, and cyclical prices, which according to the OECD can be further exacerbated by the specific characteristics of the energy transition, including technological breakthrough, mineral substitution, and improved recycling rates. Mining operators face increasing scrutiny regarding their environmental and social impacts, with ESG, license to operate, and climate change ranking among the sector's top 4 challenges according to Ernst & Young's global survey of mining operators. In Central Asia, these risks are compounded by country risks, which are reflected in higher costs of capital, making access to financing more challenging. The legacy of the Soviet era's approach to mining has resulted in some misalignments sometimes in national policy frameworks that can act as barriers to investment, particularly in exploration, and that can fail to ensuring sustainable approaches are developed throughout the investment cycle. So what can priorities look like moving ahead for developing the mining sector in Central Asia? Mobilize the finance that is needed to meet the demand in critical minerals and ensure that sectoral practices align with international sustainability standards. One, let me first highlight that core policy frameworks for attracting investment remain as relevant as ever. Some progress, sizable progress has been made across the region in this area, but continuous effort needs to be sustained to ensure consistent and transparent implementation of policies, stability of the regulatory framework, and sound mechanisms for dispute resolution. Two, investment specifically in the mining sector will require to conduct geological surveys and enhance data, and a number of governments in the region have announced initiatives that are particularly fitting. To carefully assess environment payments, taxes and penalties, and other tax incentives and disincentives. For example, in OECD countries, members favor a profits-based approach in their fiscal policies. And finally, it will require to ensure that challenges relating to limited competition in some segments of the mining and metallurgical sectors are addressed. Three, there needs to have an agenda to make the sector greener, which will also be critical for attracting finance. And this means gearing the mining sector towards a net zero future by promoting the adoption of energy efficient and low carbon techniques and technologies, including through strategic planning tools at the national level, for example, through long-term low-emission development strategies, attracting more investment and promoting FDI and SME linkages to drive the adoption of low-carbon technologies, and to assess potential synergies between the development of sustainable mining and the development of clean energy solutions such as carbon capture and renewable hydrogen. Second, reducing water risks and managing the impacts of mining on water will be critical in this region, which means enhancing water information systems, including with regards to water pollution, promoting the emergence of mining sector sustainable water use standards based on best practices abroad, for example, the Canada TSM water stewardship, improving mining tailings management through the adoption of best practices, such as the promotion of mining valuable critical minerals from waste. And finally, controlling, monitoring, and limiting impacts on the biodiversity, promoting nature-based solutions, and assessing where these nature-based solutions can offer more cost-effective solutions than traditional grey infrastructural approaches to limit environmental impacts from mining operations. Horizontal conditions, including cooperation across the government, sound sector governance and oversight, and the adoption of internationally recognized approaches such as the polluter pay principle, environmental impact assessments, and best available techniques hold great potential in achieving these objectives. Let me conclude by saying that this agenda is ambitious, but the OECD stands ready to support Central Asia governments on this journey. The two ongoing OECD projects on sustainable infrastructure in Central Asia and the land-water energy sector nexus support governments in the region with their agendas to transition to low-carbon economic growth, adapt to the effects of climate change, and build infrastructure and industrial systems that align with these objectives, including in the mining sector. We're confident that regional dialogues such as the one taking place in the next 2 days at this forum will help to set the course for a better mining future in Central Asia and beyond. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Pauline. It's very positive to see how our focus on critical raw materials brings us together and the opportunity for collaboration that brings. And also the linkage between sustainable practices and then obtaining finance, which I'm sure we're all focusing on more and more as we move to develop our projects. So thank you again. Our fifth and final talk this morning is being presented by Azamat Ibrahimov, who's the Associate Director for the EBRD. He's been with the EBRD since 2011 and brings over 20 years of experience. And today we'll be discussing EBRD's view on natural resources. Please welcome to the podium. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. Я, наверное, продолжу на русском языке,
Спасибо.
если это возможно. У меня презентация будет
Okay, if
на
possible, I
английском,
will
но
continue
я буду рассказывать на
in
русском.
Russian. My presentation will be in English, but I will speak in Russian.
Уважаемый кабинет министров,
First of all,
уважаемые
dear
послы,
members
доброе
of the
утро,
Cabinet
спасибо за
Ministry,
приглашение.
dear ambassadors, your excellencies, thank you for the invitation. This is a great honor to participate at such event and to present European Bank for Construction and Development. I hope this information will be useful to you and mostly interested in the investors and for the Cabinet of Ministry as well. Could you please move to the next slide? I will briefly talk about EBRD, European Bank for Construction and Development. I will briefly touch upon the team that deals with the mining sector in the bank. Also, I will tell you about how we work with potential investors and potential projects. Next slide, please. As you know, that EBRD, European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, is a IFI, International Financial Institution, with AAA rating. This is an investment rating. Currently, capital amounts to over 30 billion USD. Owners of this bank are the 72 countries, members, including Kyrgyzstan and other countries of Central Asia, like Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan. On this slide, you might see that a bank has been formed in 1991, and the difference of EBRD from other IFIs is the focus on the private sector. Our main focus at the moment of when it was created was to move or make a transition from the planned economy in the post-Soviet era to transition market economy, which are countries of former Soviet Union and Eastern Europe. This bank, as you might see, it develops quite dynamically. Currently, we are working not only on the territory of post-Soviet states, but we also work with such countries as Egypt, Tunisia, and Morocco. The structure of ownership, major owners are EU countries, over 50% of share, and the large package also is owned by such countries as US, United States, US government, UK, and Japan. Now, we work in 36 countries of the world, as you can see from the slide. And on this map, we, as I mentioned, primarily we focus on the countries of the former Soviet Union and Eastern Europe, plus new countries, Morocco, Tunisia, Western Bank, Egypt, Jordan, and Lebanon. In Central Asia, we work in Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, and Mongolia, and as well in Turkmenistan. Next slide. What are the main benefits of working with EBRD? First of all, we are talking about a certain quality of development of our partnership. The partners who we start working with. As bank, we work very deliberately. We select projects and business partners in a very deliberate manner. First of all, we talk about quality. Next, we also talk about capital mobilization. That colleague from OECD previously just mentioned that with participation of our bank and other international financial institutions. So such banks help investors raise more funding and add them to the project. We also provide longer maturity loans compared to local or domestic market or funding available at local markets. Also, another area is just we present at the market. EBRD is one of the few, and in fact probably the only one financial institution which actually have offices in all countries of operation, which improves our cooperation and with the governments and with local businesses. We also talk about ourselves not just bank or development bank, but also as a partner. When we review projects and we start project with our working with our project partners, we consider ourselves as business partners. We do everything possible to make sure a project is successful and our client reaches a next level of development. Here on this slide you can see some information about our level of investment in the recent years. You can see that accumulatively we have invested more than 190 billion US dollars in countries of operations. In last year, 2023 FY, we invested over 14 billions, of which 10 billions were loans. On this slide you can also see that main sectors that we finance. Out of them, the largest one is sector is infrastructure, which includes energy and municipal projects such as water supply, which is 48%. Other sectors as a corporate, we have 27% of investment going, and actually that includes our team working in mining. And another sector is financial institutions. In this slide you can see 10 largest operation countries where we invested last year. On the right side you can see the largest country in terms of investment was Turkey. 2.4 billion euro was invested. What is interesting, you can also see Uzbekistan, which is number 6, where we invested over 700 billions euros. Actually 700 million euro. Okay, next slide shows what we can and what we cannot finance. First of all, we finance projects related to metals, minerals. We can finance rehabilitation of tailings if this is financially feasible. We finance with and work with suppliers who work with mining sector. What is needed for us to be involved? First of all, project need to be in the operation country where we work. The project need to be bankable, which means that project will be able to service the loan, the payback, and would have certain outcomes in terms of and results in terms of standards, and we're talking about improvement of local economies by this project and improvement of the country. So that's development goal. It is also important to know that project need to meet international standards, environmental aspects and environmental standards in operation countries. What we cannot finance, these are the projects that cause damage to nature, and such damage cannot be minimized or decreased or mitigated and up to the level that we as a bank, development bank, and as country would be satisfied with. So we don't finance it. We also don't finance uranium, anything related to uranium, and anything related to coal. However, the cox type of coal we can consider project, but the regular usual coal we don't finance. On the next slide you can see what projects and what products we suggest. We have 3 major directions of work. First is credits, loans, participation in capital, which is equity, and guarantees. We as bank provide loans. More than 80%. More than 80% is actually 80% is loans. Equity is 10 to 12% of annual funding, and trade financing, where we contribute to facilitation of supply to the operation country through our bank, the partners banks. So our deals start from 10 million euros, as you can see from the slide. Sometimes it could be smaller, but it depends on a particular project and complexness and difficulty and of each projects and due diligence and work. You may ask why not 5 millions or 1 million, but why 10 millions? Euro is minimum this is a good question, because to us as a bank, making project for 1 million or 10 million or 100 million, in fact, we pay approximately same time and resources. So for the matters of effectiveness and efficiency, this is one reason we start from 10 million. And another reason is economic or financial. We say that we do quite a lot of due diligence. Speaking about mining, this is first about feasibility study, environmental and social safeguards. All that costs money. If we make 1 million euro project, the due diligence and safeguard alone might be 200 and more thousand dollars a year, which means for the client that might be not interested. So this is why we suggest starting project from 10 millions, again, depending on the project, if it's not too complex, or if we talk about the company which is a supplier, like in mining sector, where due diligence, specifically like environmental and other safeguards, will be minimum, we can put the number down. Currency, this could be local currency or currency in US dollars or euro. We structure of loans, we might be different from higher maturity loans with we can also provide senior subordinated, so minority stake loss, and or actually pot that could be shares, and vice versa. We can finance both corporate and revolver type of loans, and the project financing as well. So next slide, please. These are the results of the project team that works in the natural resources and mining sector. As you can see from the slide, over the time of EBRD operation, we have financed over 12 billion euro in the operation countries in this particular area. The team consists of 20 staff located in London and several other operational countries. The nearest bank here in this region is located in Almaty. Last year, we financed projects for a total cost of 2 billion. What is interesting from this particular slide? We suggest technical support to our clients, resource efficiency, the strategy on decarbonization are part of our TA support, technical support, inclusiveness and gender component programs. We also suggest the so-called improvement of capacity for a regulatory framework, and working with regulators and with the government where necessary. We also suggest and offer technical support for the companies owners of in the estate ownership, but if the companies are transforming to private firms, a private business, so we can suggest corporate governance support as well. This next slide. On the slide you see several projects we have financed over recent years. I specifically left those which are in our region and one in Turkey, where there was the largest funding. You see that different type of projects that we do here, including equity, like Czech Republic, 6 million euro, and a senior loan in a 50 million site with a Turkish company in Turkey. Out of this list, you can see the large project we were doing with Kazakhstan.
One of the companies in Kazakhstan was what? Next slide. So you can see the list of companies and projects. The projects implemented by EBRD. These are very interesting projects. For instance, in Armenia, an $11 million project to issue bonds. Approval procedures in EBRD. So for your understanding, For every question, how long will it take to approve a project? So it depends on the project, because every project is unique, and approval procedure lasts from 9 months and more. In particular, if we talk about mining sector, it takes longer. When we say mining projects, so it must have a larger package of due diligences, including social impact, EHS, and so on. However, some projects implemented by ADB and subject to environmental examination. So, for example, birds, population, we have to monitor within 1 year if we talk about environmental safety. Before launching the project, we have to monitor the bird flows, population above the project site, and then we can approve or disapprove. Same relates to other projects subject to biodiversity, other flora and fauna. So beforehand, we have to obtain the outcomes of due diligence measures. Next slide, please. Probably I will skip case studies, so I better skip my presentation so we can have Q&A. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you, Azamat. It's great to see EBRD's support for the Central Asian region and reference to offices in each of the countries. That concludes our 5 speakers for this morning. Thankfully, everybody has kept to time superbly well, so we have time for questions this morning. I have a couple we have prepared just for the individual, but then we will open it to the floor, and we have a set of microphones available. So when you have a question, please raise your hand, and we'll bring the microphone over to you so everybody can hear it and we can capture it on the recordings, etc. So I'll just kick off with the first question. So to Daniel, in terms of the outline of the investor agreements that you have implemented recently, are there any good examples you can share with us that relate to the mining industry, please?
As I mentioned earlier, the overall investment climate is of a priority policy and in the political agenda. So first we have regulatory framework or legal base, or the legal framework aimed at creating enabling environment for investors, in particular as per the orders or instructions by the senior management and leadership of the country. The priority was given to to attract new investors. Overall, we have created or established 5 preferential regimes. Such measures are KKM enabling environment for consciousness cooperation. Is this the first aspect? Second is the creation of enabling tax regimes or preferential regimes. We've been working for 2 years by implementing reforms in the country. We actively introduce and provide preferences or benefits for investors. And the focus will be paid to create enabling environment in the mining sector for investors. I can see a lot of investors attending our forum. And in my opinion, we have a good tax regime in the Kyrgyz Republic, among other projects. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think that very nicely aligns with the due diligence that you referred to in Azmat and your talk with the four essential pillars for attracting investment, which is technical, ESG, commercial, and obviously the tax arrangements and so forth, and then the legal. So I think that's excellent and ties in very nicely. My second question to Melis, if you don't mind, is you reference the very valuable resources that are available in terms of the historical work completed in the region, and maybe if you could just give us an outline on the work that's been done to digitize and bring that into a format that's going to be available for investors to review, please.
Thank you. My ministry is working on data of geological exploration. We are now digitalizing the entire state archive, or the historical archive. So the project is ongoing. We are now scanning and digitalizing all data in terms of geological exploration data. The ministry will continue working with other companies and stakeholders in this regard. And we will continue working on improving data.
Thank you. As a geologist myself, I realize the value in these historical studies and the great work that has been done before, in terms of exploration, but also in terms of the work that was developed in terms of the GKZ resource estimates. And so I think this will provide an excellent foundation for people to review and get interest in the region. So excellent, and it's great to hear that work is ongoing and picking up momentum. And then my third question to Anne was great to hear about the tender opportunities that are coming up this year in Kazakhstan. Maybe if you could just give us a flavor for some of the commodities that will be presented, so people can get an interest.
Yeah, thank you for this question. In my presentation, I've mentioned that we are very active in delivering auctions and biddings, tendering. So first of all, these are large deposits to be auctioned, announced by the end of this year. As for 23 deposits, I've mentioned we have gold, coal, silver, other critical minerals, and so on. I have a QR code, and probably I will ask organizers to share the QR code on the screen, where you can learn more about deposits to be auctioned, which are planning to announce for, which includes, as I mentioned, 23 deposits planned for August. Through automatization and subsoil users website, which is a minerals.kz platform. It has wonderful interactive map on the base, so you're most welcome to learn more. Thank you.
That's excellent, thank you. And good again to see the spectrum of mineral deposits that are being presented, and really the wealth of the region to continue to develop these projects. My fourth question to Plenary, I think as an independent engineer myself, we certainly see the increasing focus towards sustainability, and maybe if you could just give a few examples of the key areas of focus that people look at for sustainability when reviewing a project going forwards, please.
So in terms of sustainability, I've highlighted some of what I think are the priorities, particularly in this region, and the things to look at, particularly one of them being the energy efficiency and low carbon aspects of mining operations, for which there's a need to set a clear, and that goes beyond the mining sector. I think it's about setting clear low carbon growth objectives at a national level, and then determining to how businesses, how industries can contribute to these low carbon objectives to deliver on Paris Agreement targets, and sending the right incentives for investment to flow in solutions that support these decarbonization objectives, and implementing the right technologies, the right innovation. I think in plenary too, we will get in a little bit deeper into what can be done in this area, but this is certainly one of the sustainability areas that really need to be looked at. A second very important sustainability area for the region is water, given the magnitude of the water challenge in Central Asia. The mining sector can have very harmful consequences on water pollution, and also consumes high volumes of water. But fortunately, there's a number of good practices that can be further implemented in the region, based on the best approaches that are taken in OECD countries such as Australia or Canada, that have experience to share in this area. And finally, as I was mentioning, biodiversity and nature-based solutions are also areas that need to be looked at more closely, I think, in the future, and looking at how the sector can also contribute to better adapt to climate, basically. So.
Super, thank you. And I suppose the governments have a role to play in that water resourcing and the interboundary issues that presents. Yeah. Thank you, that's great. And then Azamat, just maybe for context and for those who are not as familiar with the EBRD, but just an outline of at what stage in a project development timeline you typically look to get involved. Is it an issue for you? Will you look at exploration projects or through development, study development, or you prefer operational or the range of?
Thank you.
In relation to a question, as a matter of principle, we can kick off our operations at any stage of the project, be it on geo-exploration or on later stages at the time of extraction. But from our perspective, and depending on the project complexity, we have to first examine, subject to compliance with environmental requirements, it must be bankable, as a self-financed, subject to return of investments capacity, and it is very important to know who is behind those projects. Normally, we mean, and EBRD works with lots of, let's say, players and partners. Assume we have a big player or big partner, we can start at any time. A reliable partner, let's say. If we lack such partner, or if partner is not that strong as we want to, so they will be launched, I would say, on later stages, of course, depending on the partner. And of course, any project must comply with environmental, social requirements and standards with the minimum risk to the environment or impact. Thank you.
It's very much a risk-based approach, and taking into the personal, individual circumstances. That's great. Thank you. Okay, well, I'd like to open up the questions to the floor, if I may, please. If you could raise your hand if you have a question for any of the panel.
Your question. So say it again. If you have any questions, please come to the microphones. There's one microphone right in the middle there, or one in here in front. So if you have any questions, please say who you are and who you're addressing the question to. Thank you.
Mr. Turgombayev, I have a question to you. You talk about the interactive map and so on creation. Are you planning an eco monitoring? So we have existing technologies, for instance, in Uzbekistan in terms of eco monitoring. We are now working jointly with the Ministry of Natural Resources of Uzbekistan. So are you planning to have similar approaches or mechanisms? So everything relates to environmental compliance requirements, we will implement them. We have similar map of biosphere or biosphere territories or natural protected areas for every site. And we are ready to cooperate with any company ready to introduce such measures. Our company would love to provide our services and know-how jointly with Siemens in terms of eco monitoring. So we are partners with Siemens. We are ready for any kind of cooperation if we talk about environment and mitigation. Thank you. Morning. My name is Marina Kolesnikova, 2KG Media Outlet. My question to Mr. Turgombayev. Are you planning to auction such deposits as... So, will there be auctions for uranium extraction? Thank you. As of today, or if you remember, there was a moratorium for bids. We have cancelled and terminated the call for bids moratorium. So soon we will call for auctions or bids for uranium deposits. And as you might know, last week we have adopted the new law. Our goal is not to extract uranium. We don't have such large deposits or reserves to have larger volumes to call for auction or bid. Our goal, however, to develop or start processing such as critical minerals. First of all, the precious metals extraction. So our goal to explore and to perform additional exploration to develop those sites. There are a lot of other minerals and materials, not only uranium. In our plan to extract those minerals, of course, but no, yes, it won't be a call for bid, a competitive bids. Thank you so much.
Do we have anybody? One final question, maybe? There we are.
My name's Ash Johnson from IGS Limited. We've heard the importance about geological data, and I certainly welcome the initiatives to recover the older data, make it digital, make it available. But my question is both for Mr. Turgombayev and Mr. Sharkan. Could you comment on any government initiatives to acquire new, modern, regional geoscience data for your countries to enhance the historical data?
Yes, we will look for those opportunities, and thank you for this question, of course. So we'll work on that, the previous speaker said. Of course, we are all interested to have a geodata or geoscience data before entering to any market. As for geodata or information, we have funds, probably he meant the big servers. So as per the order of the president, we have established a geological service or agency. Today, we have prepared secondary reports, which totals 56,000 reports were digitalized. and they're available on interactive map on that platform, minerals.gov.kz. So we are still advancing the system, however, soon they will be available as a new data. But in parallel, through Geological Agency, you can request and obtain such information on e-devices. Today, we are now digitalizing the primary information. This work is very actively performed. You know that it's very complex work. And so the plan is to complete in 1 year period primary data.
Thank you both. One more? Go ahead.
Morning. Uluk Mining. My name is Sulaiman. My question to the Minister of Economy, to Mr. Amangildiev. When entering into investment agreement with the private companies or with companies, you have mentioned a 5-year exemption from taxes or tax benefits. Could you please clarify, does it relate to existing sites or for new sites to be created? The goal of the government to support entrepreneurs at any stage, be it modernization or construction or new enterprise. Based on the status of a company or the enterprise, we will review it. As I mentioned, the main or ultimate goal of the government is to create enabling environment for business and investors. If we talk about existing companies, we will not provide, or it won't be reviewed unless it's a deep modernization, maybe a large scale modernization. As a good example, we have cement factory in Kant City, which is 20 minutes drive from capital city. So they have modernized their facilities, and we are about to sign an investment contract, so they will be subject to tax benefits. Clear? Thank you.
Thank you. And I would like to thank all of the speakers this morning for an excellent introduction into the opportunities of the Kyrgyz Republic and the wider region. So thank you all very much.